Welcome back to Star Spangled Gamblers. This is your OG political betting podcast. I feel it's more important to say that day by day as more and more people want to be in this game. I'm Keen Dog. I'm your host. I'm going full deer hunter today for those of you who are joining us by video. These quarantine dues are getting a little out of control. iSavage, do you want to surprise everyone by telling them that you're on this podcast with us today?
What's going on, everybody? Back again. The Joan Rivers of Star Spangled Gamblers, filling in when somebody else can't be here.
You can't sell yourself short like that, bro.
I mean, that's been the pattern, right? Pratik can't make it, I'm on. Zoltar can't make it, I'm on. You know, that's cool.
I disagree. I think Joan Rivers is the wrong way to go. Not that I know her history particularly well, but you're more like the George Clooney of Star Spangled Gamblers, I would say. And I'm very comfortable unpacking that if it doesn't make you uncomfortable.
Go for it. I'll have to show it to my wife later. So go ahead. Let's get it in.
What, you think she needs convincing?
It never hurts.
So the unofficial history of ER was that NBC thought George Clooney was a stud, but they could never find anything to put him in. And then they were like, oh, there's this sweet doctor show written by Michael Crichton. Let's get that fucking stud George Clooney and just make him a character in it. So I personally, behind the scenes, we've been trying to do a show with iSavage for a while on the regular, but we're all busy and having to pay the bills and shit. So for some reason it keeps not happening. But we are the biggest iSavage fans out there. The Star Spangled Gamblers boys are.
I appreciate it. It's always fun. Always fun. We'll do the ER version of political podcasts at some point.
There we go. PJ, how are you doing today? Say hi to your fans.
Hey.
Fans and detractors, Pratik. Fans and detractors. The lightning rod.
Right. You got some Twitter beefs now.
Armenian bacon, Supak, models of civil discourse.
All my friends.
We're all friends. We're all a family. We're just a very dysfunctional family of people betting on politics very loudly with our egos. Where's your ego, Pratik?
Well, according to, I think it was OCP, I'm driven by a hatred of the left. That's his psychoanalysis. So maybe we'll unpack that one later.
Is there any political movement in history that you haven't hated on some level?
No.
There's a political movement in Germany that is pretty consistently easy to hate.
Well, they're all the same.
At least take shots at one.
Okay, well, enough's enough. I consider it a sign of success that Star Spangled Gamblers has its first Twitter beef. So keep the hate coming, boys. I'm sorry if you tuned in here to talk about some boring local race that no one cares about. Joe Biden is obviously about to announce his vice presidential pick. We're going to talk about that a lot today. In fact, we had to delay this podcast because some stupid, outrageous Kamala Harris pump happened this morning, and people were hemorrhaging cash quicker than I do at closing time at some shitty bar with Miller Lights on special. So what the fuck is going on? Is this ending? Is Biden going to pull a VP out of his rear end in the next couple of days? Can someone please anchor us on what's going on in the vice presidential selection process before I have a heart attack?
I think par for the course on PredictIt is, as it gets to this stage in the game, you are going to have the artists come in who know how to manipulate people, manipulate information, and we saw that this morning. I mean, just crazy swing in the VP market towards Kamala on, something that had questionable reliability to it. But I think people are just getting real itchy with their cell fingers, and people know how to take advantage of that.
Well, what's the difference between fringe fake information and legit insider trading where you have these campaign people who are buying and selling on their accounts?
Yeah, I mean, when we've seen insider trading again before, I've said it before. When it looks like insider trading, it usually is, and usually the hallmark of that is just a real steady trajectory that sustains itself. That it happened with Tom Steyer jumping back in the race. It happened with Justin Amash, perhaps jumping in. Some other things that I could think of, but usually if it peaks
Jesse Ventura,
valleys, yeah. If it peaks and it valleys, it's usually not real. If it slowly and then sustains, that's more likely when it might be some insider information.
Jesus, we're doing quantitative trading now. Wait, PJ, I saw your mouth open.
Yeah, I mean, I would say the best example of a insider trader move that turned out to be correct in the cycle was in the Montana Senate race, where there was really no other reason other than genuine insider information to see that Bullock was going to actually run after denying it categorically. I do think in the VP market, though, I don't know that we're going to see clear-cut cases of inside information being either good or bad. And my view on this is influenced. I think it was in Karl Rove's memoir or one of those, but during the 2000 Bush campaign, when they were deliberating on a VP, there were people in the campaign who were like on the periphery of the inside circle, and everyone on the campaign kind of knew that they would leak. And at one point, when they knew that I think it was Danforth, he was on the short list, but at some point when the genuine inside people knew he wouldn't be the VP, they told people in the campaign that he would be, knowing that it would leak to the press to kind of take them on a different, down a rabbit hole. So I think it's entirely possible that, like we saw today, we could be seeing genuine inside information trades that are not actually accurate.
Yeah, that's a classic. When I was on worked on the Ways and Means Committee as a young buck, they would do that. They would hand out briefs to every member of Congress, but they would like change one sentence in all of them so they could figure out, who they could trust and who they couldn't when it popped up on K Street.
But by the way, on Kamala, I mean, the pump isn't really over. I think as of right now, she's still at 55%, which is significantly higher than where she was yesterday.
No, which is true. And I think that the process has been pretty leaky so far anyway, with all this, anti-Kamala sentiment coming out and, the jockeying being pretty out in the open. So, I think it's a pretty good chance that we'll definitely know before it's official. Let me put it that way.
Yeah.
And I think that then the next fun is going to be in the announcement market of, even if we know 3 days before, if it's not official by the rules, then, there's going to be some good back and forth in there.
So, but let me walk that back for a second. Like, my read on this whole process is like more and more obscure names come into the mix. Like I've been like a total anti-Karen Bass troll because I think it's just completely outlandish that Karen Bass is going to be the vice president. But like I read all of this as the Biden team being very unsatisfied with the people that it has to pick from, and it just like flailing around for an alternative to Kamala Harris. Like literally get me anyone. But I also don't like Kamala Harris, so that might be my bias creeping in. I don't know. Like where does that land with you fellas?
The big lesson I'm taking from the way the VP thing has gone down is the point I made at the outset, which is that the way they've handled it, I think, calls into question in a very serious way the political skill and acumen of the Biden campaign. The fact that they're down to this pool of candidates, all of whom have very severe flaws, I think shows once again that it was an absolute mistake on Biden's part to preemptively limit himself to selecting a woman and then allowing the momentum to generate where there now will be a cost if he doesn't pick an African-American woman specifically. So I think that point has to be acknowledged right there. And I think the trading lesson here is that there's absolutely no guarantee they're going to make a rational play.
I mean, there's a lot with that. I think that on my side of things, I think that no matter if he had made that commitment to a woman or not, I think we would be where we are right now based on the other point you were making, is that I do not like how his team has handled this either. I don't like seeing the snipes and the knives out coming from the internal circle. I think that it looks really bad because whoever emerges from this process is going to be, have some damage to them already. And when the damage comes from people on Biden's own team, leaking stuff because they feel like they're losing the internal argument, that looks really sloppy. I think that the other lesson that I've been saying from the beginning is you can't, I mean, how many people who have risen from 1 cent, 2 cents to, looking like they're really in contention. So the other part of it is, I think kind of what you're saying as well, they're trying to cast a wide net in a lot of different ways just to make sure whoever they do settle on, they've compared them against a lot of different viable people.
So I'm the king of bad metaphors. That's really my only skill in life. And the Biden VP selection process reminds me of like the total garbage dumpster fire of like Department of Defense contracting when they're like, we need a supersonic fighter that's like stealth and can dogfight and also carry like 15 nuclear. Like the requirements that get lumped onto who and the expectations of who these people are going to be are like so unrealistic, especially when you narrow the search to basically like, female of 2 or 3 skin tones. Like it's just like it's going to be hard to find those people. So I don't know who's surprised that that there aren't 100 Barack Obamas just waiting right now. Like those types of people don't come around that often, but there's an expectation that the Biden campaign is going to produce that, or at least that's how I'm perceiving the sort of frustration in this campaign right now.
It just seems to me, and I think the dynamics of the race have been clear for a long time, that Biden has a comfortable lead, which is attributable almost more than anything else to Trump just imploding and being so polarizing. I think all he needs to do here is not pick a candidate who's going to create a liability, and he's by many multiples bolstered the odds of that happening by limiting himself to the pool that he has. I continue to think that the rational play would be to pick someone who will be hard to attack and won't be polarizing. But from the pool we have now, not too many people fit that mold.
Do you want to play this game, fellas? Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you
Oh yeah,
off.
no, yeah. I mean, just real quick on that. I mean, from the opposite side of things, I don't think that everybody he has is uniquely awful. I think that everything that is their liabilities, I think that if we're still talking about, whatever, minutia about anybody who's under consideration right now, mid-October, it still probably means that Trump is in some trouble, because whatever we're talking about is not anything. I don't think anybody's at Palin level. Let me put it that way. In terms of having weaknesses.
All right, so I'm going to publish a blog post about this like shortly after this podcast. But I'm thinking about this, and I'm gonna play this game with you guys as like it's really a question of, would you rather have this person or literally anyone else? Because the vice presidency, it doesn't matter. There's so few restrictions on it. It's like, who's going to be the captain of like the U.S. Olympic like dream team or something like that. So I'm going to go down these list of candidates, and I'm interested to hear what you guys have. So at the top of the board is Senator Kamala Harris from California. She's trading 50 cents plus or minus for a share. So would you rather have a diverse vocal senator from the biggest state in the country? She's an absolute fundraising ATM. I think she raised $400,000 in a day for Clara McCaskill in the last cycle. Like total monster, younger progressive-er, I guess you would say. Or would you rather have a total political brutalist who's like always stabbing people in the back, and Chris Dodd, who's running the VP selection process, clearly hates her, and she has sort of a fraught relationship with normal people? Like Andrew Yang was more popular than her. I don't know, like which way are you seeing her? Like which candidate are you betting on? Are you betting on the ATM, or are you betting against the trigger warning?
I kind of put myself in a pretty easy position to still advocate for Kamala Harris. I bought her very cheaply. I've been pretty confident that 19 cents.
Shit.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have those original 19-cent shares anymore, but almost everything I do from here is like,
Yeah.
I bet pretty consistently that it's going to be an African-American woman either way. So that's so from a betting perspective, I can still advocate for her because, it's almost no harm, no foul for me. But with that being said, it's like the pluses for her are still where they were back in March or April. I think that, kind of like I was saying earlier, and I was thinking about this yesterday, being a Democrat from California is going to give you the most enemies possible than any other person from any other state, really, because when you won your multiple statewide races, you disaffected the Democrats from the party that you beat. You've got more Republicans in California than most other states by volume, right?
Yeah.
Right. So I take this anti-Kamala sentiment in a lot of way, based on her setting, is that she has the most detractors. She's made the most people mad along the way. She's made Democrats mad along the way because she beat them. She made Republicans mad along the way because of partisanship. And at the end of the day, I don't see her as any more cunning or divisive or brutalist or anything else. I just think that she's, by volume, angered the most people in her rise. If she had risen to these ranks in Vermont, she wouldn't have as many enemies. So that's where I think a lot of this criticism is coming from.
I actually disagree with a lot of that. I think, first of all, she is now trading at 54%. I think those odds are too high, given what we know, that it's not that she's simply a divisive figure, but that people internally who are leading the VP vetting clearly aren't enthused by the possibility. I don't know how long I'm going to hold on to shares at this price, but I think at least as of now, it's too high. But secondly, I don't think there's anything inherent about being a California politician that gives you political liabilities. I mean, this is also a state that produced a senator like Dianne Feinstein, and I think the political risk around a figure like that would be very different than Kamala Harris. I think that the argument for Kamala would have been considerably stronger either had she not run for president on her own or if she had performed better. But her campaign was a total train wreck. I mean, she waged a cheap shot against Biden that I think is going to haunt her. She did terribly in the contest throughout, despite having sky-high expectations, and it led to a proliferation of articles in the press about just her competence and ability to run a campaign. So I don't know what Biden necessarily has to gain by someone who polarizes and alienates so many independents who will be in play.
Well, but here, like, I'm going to come back to the B side of this when we talk about Val Demings and my views about her. But like, I feel like Kamala Harris benefits from a lot of things that the political market values right now. I mean, like, if you're the senator from California or Texas or New York, huge state, you are automatically a badass. Doesn't matter. Like iSavage was kind of saying, that just makes you a big deal. But like the Democratic Party is putting a huge premium on leaders who aren't white and leaders who are female. And Kamala also connects culturally well to, like younger ways of talking and stuff. So like she does bring some things with her that other politicians don't. But I think she also gets like a multiplier for being like a fairly average senator in like a Senate sense, just because of where she's from and what she represents to certain people.
But where's the evidence, though, for this big state Democrat thesis? I mean, we had a number of those figures.
Ted Cruz.
No, but on the Democrat, on the Democratic side, though, we had Gillibrand, who was a total flop, Kamala, who was a flop, Beto, who was a total flop, and the guys who did far exceed expectations were people like Bernie, Biden, and Andrew Yang. I don't know. I'm skeptical of this notion that being a Democrat from a big state gets you a national.
But Bernie Sanders needed 30 years for anyone to know his name or give a shit about him. The second you get elected to a statewide office in California or Texas or New York or probably even Illinois, like people know who you are. Like you're a player.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the point I'm trying to make too. I think particularly exactly what you're saying is to me the biggest liability of her is she didn't meet her expectations in the main primary. And then I'll be honest, and I've been pretty upfront that I thought that she's been the best pick for VP from the beginning. I think that her post candidacy has not been demonstrative that she's learned, a lot of lessons. I still think that she just is a little bit too, just a little bit too loose at times. That being loose doesn't call for it. I think kind of like you're saying, Keen, it's great to have somebody who could be fun. It's great to have somebody who can connect a little bit more, which I think that she has. But there also needs to be times where it's like, ask a direct question to get a direct answer. And that's where I think that she's fallen short a little bit. Now, again, that's not disqualifying for me, but that's the biggest liability for me right now, is that if the vetting committee has been seeing her kind of post candidacy appearances, you're getting the same Kamala that you got that didn't win the primary. And I would have liked to seen a little bit of elevation.
There's another factor here too on Kamala, which is that when you think about the fact that Biden got to where he is basically by being not only a loyal VP, but also generally a loyal figure who wasn't too polarizing. I mean, if you pick Kamala to be your VP, you know that there will not be a second when she's not plotting to become president. And I don't think there's anything that would prevent her from stabbing Biden in the back, not even if it's the rational thing to do, but if she perceives it to be. I'm thinking back like to the 1980 Reagan's deliberations on who to pick for VP, and a big reason why Rumsfeld did not get the nod was basically because even though he had a good resume and would have been an able campaigner, they simply didn't trust him to be loyal as a vice president, which they weren't confident with George H.W. Bush. I don't know how anyone can look at Kamala's track record and believe that she'll be a loyal vice president for 4 years.
All right, let's put a bow on this. Pratik, are you buying yes, or are you buying no, or are you saying out?
I am buying no at 55%, which is where she is right now, but I don't know how long I'll hold these.
iSavage.
I don't like anybody over 50 cents right now, so I didn't hold past past that line. So not at this point. No, I need a little bit more verified information. So
I'm holding a no at the average cost of 51 cents right now. So I'm going to try and squeeze a few pennies out of that.
Just to put the bobo in it.
Oh yeah,
I would not.
Yeah.
I wouldn't hold no on her for very for a very long time. Flipping it out of it one thing, but she's still most likely for a reason. I feel like so.
I feel that way with all these candidates, to be honest. Like buy and hold is not a strategy. Let me actually. So I'm gonna divert the plan here. I'm gonna go to a candidate that I think is the opposite, and then we can come to Susan Rice, who's number 2 on the board. So I'm going to go to Val Demings, who the last I checked was trading at 7 cents, but she might be down a little bit now. So Val Demings, we're going to go back to would you rather have this person or anyone else? So Val Demings, would you rather have basically an unknown congresswoman from Florida who throughout the vetting process, not because she held an office that commanded Biden's respect, but just because she herself has earned Biden's respect, would you rather have that person for 7 cents? Or would you rather bet on anyone else, like someone who has career experience that's in excess of the average congressman, or who has been around or held leadership positions or won a statewide election? I don't know. Are you buying or selling on that, guys?
I began when the Val Demings conversation began. I was skeptical for 2 reasons. Number one, I thought that the notion that Biden would definitely pick an African American woman was overstated. I think that we're now at a point where that does look more likely. The other point of caution I had about Val Demings was that in the absence of vetting, just given her time as a police chief and so forth, I thought there may be dirt coming out on her. I've changed my view on Demings. I think that relative to the field, she actually is a remarkably disciplined person. I think she has a long track record of achievement. And I don't think in this political climate where the high point of Black Lives Matters and so forth has passed, I actually think her record as a police chief will actually be a positive. I think that it'll be an assuring thing for a lot of people, independents and so forth, maybe who don't share this anti-police sentiment that's on the far left. So I am buying Val Demings at 6 cents. I don't know how long I'll hold it, but I think she is underpriced right now.
I think everything that Pratik said is true for for the most part in terms of I don't think that she would do harm to Biden. I think that there are a small window of people who are gonna who would ultimately, by the time it came to November, would say, you know what, she used to be a police chief and a police officer. I'm strong in the Black Lives Matter camp. I'm not gonna vote for her. Vote for the ticket because of that. That's a smaller number. But I think that at the end of the day, that's not where the harm is going to come from. I think initially it would be oh my gosh, this might not have been the right pick in this moment, in the initial rollout, but I don't think that she would be a bad pick. That being said, she's not somebody I've really held less yes on at all. I bought no on her when she got pretty high and have kept it. Just because I think that compared to the rest of the field, I don't see the likelihood. And I also haven't heard the chatter of her being in the upper echelon. The upper echelon has been kind of the same 3 or 4 people. And she's always been and Val Demings is also being vetted, you know what I mean? Along with a couple other people. So that's just where it's I don't see her as favorable as everybody else. I'll talk about my strategy a little bit more later, and she's just not in it for that reason.
I've been a huge bear on Val Demings for most of this campaign, and I'm really coming around on it. And I see her, as I've said, as sort of the opposite of Kamala Harris, where as you and I, at least Savage, we seem to think that Kamala Harris is in large part respected because she's a statewide official from California. I feel like if Val Demings was a statewide, if you flipped Val and Kamala, Val Demings would be the vice presidential pick. Joe Biden could have gotten rid of her at any point in this process because she has no constituency. She has no, he loses nothing by saying he doesn't want to pick Val Demings. She's such a non-factor in national politics. So to me, it's very clear that Joe Biden, who's a very emotional guy, sees something in this person that he likes. That's what I'm reading. Maybe I'm wrong, but that's what I'm reading. So when I look at her sitting down at 6 or 7 cents, I'm buy, because this would have been the easiest candidate to say is done or to leak is done. So there's a lot of supposition and speculation in that, but I feel like this is a great discount, and I'm holding it 6 or 7 cents Val Deming shares right now.
Yeah, I mean, the other factor I'll throw in here is I think if you're looking at it simply in terms of bolstering Biden's likelihood of carrying a swing state, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but she more than anyone is someone who really could turn Florida from a toss-up, maybe a slightly lean Biden, and potentially put that more firmly in his camp. I don't know if she'll have that effect or not, but there is at least that potential there.
I'm not even entertaining that as an incentive at this point, but we don't need to go down that rabbit hole.
On the margins for Florida, possibly so. But I mean, I guess think of a random congresswoman or congressman in the other side of your state. You know,
a big state.
Yeah. So I mean, that's what I'm saying is that, you know, that might not be the big swing, but you know, it doesn't. I don't think it hurts though either. That's the other thing is there's definitely value there. I just don't know how much.
All right, boys, you ready for Susan Rice?
Yep.
Susan Rice, 20 cents. Would you rather bet on someone who Biden vibes with on a personal level, has great connections in D.C., has been the national security advisor, super high level experience? Would you rather bet on that person, or would you rather bet against the person who's drenched in conspiracy theories about Benghazi that were at least credible enough for Michael Bay, John Krasinski, and Paramount Pictures to make a shitty movie about? Would you rather bet against someone who's never run for office, that I can tell, never won statewide, never done anything meaningful in a campaign sense? Which bet are you guys taking?
I don't like either side of Rice, which is obviously not fair to sit here and stake a claim in, but
that's a position.
You know, if we just go back to everything we just said about Kamala Harris's perceived disloyalty, you've got the 100% opposite of that in Rice, which, so if you put a big stock in her disloyalty over here, you got to put that equal amount, you know, towards Rice over here, towards her value. So she's just somebody, like I said earlier, I just stay nimble on. I got to see where it looks like, you know, okay, is the article coming out or is there something positive coming out? Because yes on 20 to me seems a lot better than no on 80 for Biden to just be like, you know what, I know her, that's it. So the other things that you're talking about in terms of, you know, she hasn't campaigned before, which is what I wrote in the, you know, when I wrote the blog a month and a half ago, whatever that was, I thought that was her biggest liability, and she was only at 6 or 7 cents at that time. So it would have been better to buy on her. Biden's doing so well. I think she's had such good media appearances that I think that she could overcome never having given a stump speech or been in a debate. I think that would be, you know, she'd be a quick hand at that.
Yeah. I'm looking to get in a little cheaper, though. I sort of missed the first pump, and the second pump has gotten a little expensive for me. PJ, what you got? Yeah,
she's currently trading at 20%. I think that, you know, in terms of her inexperience as a politician, I wouldn't be too worried about that. I think she's very smart. She's been in the media for a long time. So I don't think there are too many liabilities on that front. I guess the question I have is, what does Biden gain by putting her on the ticket? For one thing, it removes her ability to be a Secretary of State, which is the more natural fit given her background and experience. She doesn't really have much of a constituency, so I don't know who outside of Washington insiders are going to be lobbying for her. She certainly doesn't have working class appeal of any sort. And I don't know. Right now I have no shares on her at 77%. I think given also that there's a bias in the PredictIt markets where a lot of the demographics who trade on PredictIt tend to like her, I think at least for now I'm comfortable holding no shares at 77%.
All right, so I guess iSavage will try and buy those shares from Pratik if he gets a little jittery in the next couple days.
So let me. So this is what I was going to say later, but I'll say it now. What I've really tried to do is I've tried to keep between a 55 and 60 cent yes combination on 2 or 3 different people at a time. And you know, maybe even only for a day or two of the upper 4 or 5 people that are talked about. And that's where, you know, her yeses have not factored into that because she's been a little bit too high at 20. But if I can get her and Kamala and somebody else at 60 together, I think that's a good thing. So even if it's not for those 3 for you, I would try to look for, you know, a combination of a few people and you know, put the points in this conversation in that,
Yeah,
in your figuring.
Matt, I feel like there's no reason, like this has been such a dangerous market, any market like this to buy and hold on. It's just such a good market to think that way about what can I do in the short term to maximize my outcome. Karen Bass, you guys ready for Karen Bass?
Yes.
Karen Bass is at, she's down to 11 cents, which means I am making money. Karen Bass down to 11 cents now. Would you rather put your money on a congresswoman who happens to be black and female and Joe Biden seems to like, or would you rather bet on anyone else? That's the pro side. I'm having difficulty finding other pro sides for her. Con, would you rather bet on someone who is completely unknown to the American public except for what is turning into a sort of semi-viral speech to Scientologists? Or would you rather bet on everyone else? Would you rather bet on someone who joined a revolutionary group and went to Cuba to be re-educated by Castro's regime? Or would you rather bet on everyone else? Where are you guys? I feel like you probably have a spicy take on this, iSavage.
I do, and only because I'm a little bit mad at that Scientology video. I had just a bucket of Karen Bass at 9 cents that I was, I had a huge sell order on in the 30s, and she was just cruising there. And that Scientology video leak, I mean, she was at 27 cents, and I'm like, I'm making money.
How did you not sell? You're off this show forever.
Because I was I had
you didn't sell.
Okay, so I had thousands. I had thousands that I had to sell in the 30s, and then I was gonna hold a decent amount of rest. She was having a great day on Friday, and then that video dropped, and it went from 27 to 23 to 21 to 19, and it was like it was an interesting thing to be a part of and watch. To watch
I think I actually said on the predicted discussion boards that if you bought under 10 and didn't sell over 10, you should be like medically castrated because you were the luckiest or smartest person in the world and you fucked up.
Oh, I definitely sold a lot, just not what I thought I was going to be able to sell them for. And I was planning on holding some because, like I said, prior to that coming out that day, she was having a very good day in terms of praise, in terms of who was coming out in favor for her, positive op-eds, who was in her corner. Combine that with the bad day that Kamala was having, and it was just like, okay, it's going to shift from this to this. And she was cruising until that Scientology video dropped. It was wild.
PJ, you're short, right?
Yeah. I mean, we've been talking since the beginning. I've been predicting that at the last minute, new candidates would come to the fore and they would get courtesy vetting. I pretty much typed Bass in that mold. And I also thought that the fact that she was getting a positive reception was, to a large degree, an expression of the fact that people want an alternative to Kamala. So I'm definitely short on her. Right now she's at 11%. I would put her actual odds at under 5%.
Yeah, I'm with you there. I'm short. My average price, I guess I'm looking now, is 84 cents. So wish I'd gotten into that a little sooner, but I'm looking forward to getting a couple quarters in my pocket. Let's get to the last one that I'm taking super seriously right now. That's Senator Tammy Duckworth. Boys, would you rather bet on a respected senator who fulfills the sort of gender diversity situation that Democrats seem to care a lot about, diverse female? Would you rather bet on someone who Biden seems to like, who's got a Purple Heart for military service? Would you rather bet on someone who's from a big state, Illinois? Sounds kind of good to me. Or would you rather bet against a senator who has basically no reputation, is completely unknown to the country, wasn't vetted in the primary person? I know this isn't PC to say, but I think it's a consideration for a campaign. Would you rather bet against someone who has a serious physical disability from the war? It might be kind of awkward next to an old man that the Trump campaign is portraying as having dementia. That's a thing. And this is a betting podcast, so we have to talk about these things because they do influence people's decisions. Don't cancel me. Anyway, would you rather? iSavage.
Yeah.
7 cents.
So it's a real tough one because I think that the pluses are just so much there in terms of things you can't knock. You know what I mean? Everything that you just mentioned. I am betting against her, however, though, because very still strong on, I believe it's going to be an African-American woman. I feel like, momentum behind Kamala getting there is that if he doesn't pick her and he doesn't pick another black woman, then there's going to be some bad blood right out the gate. I think what he gains from her could make up for that if that's, the risk that they're willing to take. But the other things are there too. Let's take all her pluses away of wounded veteran, Asian woman, experienced senator, all those different things. Does she have it? And that's the other thing. Comparing her with everything else in terms of capability and experience, does she have it? Look, that's my home state senator, and there's some people have been better than her on the national stage during this vetting process. So that's one of the biggest reasons I'm betting against her. If she was like,
that's an expensive short though. Like, what's your short on her? Did you get her when she peaked up in like 15, 16?
Yeah, and also I'm just looking at it in combination with everybody else I have no on. It's just, it just adds to my ability to be a little flexible with the people I like a little bit more. It's just 11 cents of negative risk in combination with some of the other negative risk I was lucky enough to get. So that's my biggest thing against her is that, like, man, if she came out on this national stage and was wowing everybody and everybody was like clamoring for her, like, oh my gosh, I see her on TV and I love her, and this, and you really haven't heard that, you know what I mean? So that's the biggest thing is that
but I haven't heard that about any of these people.
Somewhat so, yeah. That's a point.
I would say that Keisha Lance Bottoms had that for a while.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, and you kind of said it again about Demings earlier too, is that she really has at least shown a decent amount of poise and presidential qualities in terms of just how she communicates. And yeah, I think Keisha Lance Bottoms had that for a little bit there too. But I think Kamala Harris had that kind of built in a little bit of just having that profile. Tammy Duckworth needed to up her profile to Kamala Harris levels through just sheer gravitas. I think that if she would have wanted to be a little bit more in contention.
I feel like I could answer you on Pratik's behalf right now, but I'll let him do it.
Yeah, I've basically stayed out of Duckworth the entire time. I think that my sense is that she'll make it to the very final round of vetting, if only because keeping her in gets Biden points with the veterans crowd and a number of others. I guess I just don't, if he does pick her, I don't think it would be a bad move. I don't think it'll cost him anything in the general election, but the price is kind of, maybe I guess what I'm saying, I think the price in the market is about right, and I don't really see an advantage in going in right now.
I see her though, I was like a huge flunky for Amy Klobuchar being in post position to get this job pre-George Floyd. iSavage and I were on completely the opposite side of that issue, but he's a smart guy, and I think that I'm an okay guy too. But I see Tammy Duckworth as like the perfect alternative of like, the numbers seem pretty clear that Biden should win this election by a wide margin as long as he himself doesn't do anything to hurt his campaign or shoot himself in the foot. So Tammy Duckworth to me seems like kind of inoffensive, like kind of up the middle, she just seems like a not rock the boat pick. And for 7 cents and a good story, or actually for me, I got in at her when she was like 3-4 cents. So I've been liking that trade, and I don't know if she'll get it, but the price is there. Price is right as far as I'm concerned.
Just have that right combination. That like when you get somebody at 3 cents, you can feel a lot more comfortable holding them. You know what I mean? Like that's a big, that's a good feeling. It's like, you know what? No matter what happens here, I'll have an exit ramp probably even after the announcement will come out, and you'll still probably have a 3 cent exit ramp on Duckworth. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. That's the other. Well, that's something to end on here too. Is if people just really want to be very careful. Sit out and there'll probably be 10-12 cents on the table for the pick, even when it's probably well decided. You know what I mean? Like that's just the nature of PredictIt.
Yeah there's always a conspiracy to match the truth, or the truth to match the conspiracy. Well, what about the field, guys? The field, white chicks. Do you want to go ahead?
I was going to say, before we get into the field, I think it would be worth talking about Warren as an individual.
I was about to group her in with Gretchen Whitmer and Gina Raimondo, but you want to simp for Elizabeth Warren, Pratik?
Well, I would put her in a different category from other white women. I think that she is an independent force, and there's a real rationale for her in a way that there isn't for a number of others. I think there are a number of things. I think number one, I would say she actually did pretty well in her presidential bid. I think that she in many ways outperformed expectations. And I mean, there were certainly moments in the campaign where it looked like the nomination was hers. I think she's very
She did
effective.
well enough that she underperformed expectations, I think.
Yeah, in a sense, absolutely. I think she is very disciplined. I think she is a polished politician. I actually think her economic views are more in tune with where the country is than establishment Republicans and Democrats think it is. And it seems to me like she and Biden sort of get along. So I'm basically staying out of this one. I think that I'm not quite ready to buy her at 7 cents, but I think that she has not really, she's not being taken seriously as much as she should be.
I took her from 5 to 10, but dude, she's old. She triggers Democratic donors. I don't know. Like, she's just got some headwinds that I don't really want to mess with. I don't have a position on her right now, and I'm not trying to get one.
Everything Pratik said about her is 100% right. I think that her economics are very much in line. I think that she did great in her campaign. I think everything you said, disciplined, all that different stuff. I think that her biggest liability is that she has the most attack points that might land some hits in terms of the criticism from the Trump camp that might appeal to people who are on the fence a little bit. Just the whole Pocahontas thing. I think that, you don't pick somebody who's already got an attack line, built in, that people are that's already there. I think somebody that well known that's already been painted a little bit in a negative light for people. That's some risk to me that I think that they're probably taking into account. And then I think the age thing, and I also think, again, I just don't see a white.
I think of her as like she's like a parabola of appeal.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like the people like Elizabeth Warren more and more and more and more as they get to know her. And then at a certain point, like, someone's going to put in the comments that I'm sexist, but that we're talking about human nature. And there's something about her that just annoys people. I feel like, to me, it wasn't a coincidence that her campaign kind of fell apart at a certain point, because I never saw her have a gear other than like really loud and preachy. Like, I never saw her figure out a way to, like, on a recurring basis, communicate in a tone other than kind of that loud, in your, opinionated version of her. I'm sure she has that ability in personal life. I just never saw it on the campaign. So I'm not trying to get involved with her at this point.
I actually think on the Pocahontas thing, that cuts both ways. On the one hand, it is a liability. On the other hand, it's kind of old news that's been litigated. But there are two negatives on her that make me not want to get involved. I think number one is the fact that you're now risking a Senate seat in Massachusetts. And number two is, I think if a candidate really wanted an attack dog as VP and really drive up the negatives of their opponent, she would be a good pick. But here, when you have the entire country and media ecosystem attacking Trump on a day in, day out basis, I think the premium on that is less than it would be normally.
Yeah. What about the field, fellas? Do you think that there's any chance in hell that Gretchen Whitmer, Gina Raimondo, Keisha Lance Bottoms, are any of these candidates still in contention, or are they just like pipe dreams for scammers and pumpers on PredictIt?
I was actually getting no shares filled on Michelle Obama at 96. So I think that's probably worth maxing.
Yeah. Savage?
I would love to see some Gina Raimondo movement, because I didn't scoop up any no's on her at any point, because I thought that a pump would come that never came. So have at it if anybody wants to, but no, I've
been trying so hard to pump her.
I think that the field is pretty set in terms of who the probably 5 most likely are, and I don't think that there's going to be I don't see it happening.
One of my biggest failures has been trying to get these white statewide officials to pump. Gina Raimondo and Maggie Hassan I've been holding positions on, and those are just like, what an idiot. What an idiot.
Do you guys have any explanation on why Terry Sewell has not gotten any vetting or attention? I bought a couple shares of her at 1%, which have not gone anywhere.
Maybe she's just not that good. I don't really know her, is the thing. Like, there's always a little meritocracy in this too,
Yeah, I don't know. I would have liked to have seen it too. I don't know why everybody else except for her, except for just in the early stages, it just didn't click.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. I don't know. Well, okay, let's close this out. Let's close this hard and fast, if I can get the words out of my mouth. What pumps, fake news, absolute batshit craziness are you anticipating in the next week or two until this comes out? You got 20 seconds, Bertique. Tell me what you're on guard for.
I think any news coming out of Clyburn, any prominent TV interviews, any news of Biden interviewing candidates and leaks coming out of that, I think all of that will move the markets.
Savage, what do you got? Anything different?
The rival camps have been completely ruthless in terms of trying to sabotage people as they're getting close to the finish line. We've seen that. I think that that's not done. I think that if people are really throwing Hail Marys based on arguments that they're losing internally by I feel like leaking information one way or the other. So that's what to look for, is to see what negative stuff comes out and evaluate how much is really going to influence the decision. But I don't think that we're done with the Knives Out stories yet at all.
I'm thinking we might see some chartered airplane gossip too. Like, oh my God, there's a private jet, taking off from LAX, Karen Bass, or I guess there's probably a lot of PJs there. But I'm thinking we're going to have some tail watchers. I'm excited for that. Maybe some fake polls. We might get some fake polls and fake filings. Like, PredictIt traders are really good at scamming that way. I'm just excited. I don't know about you guys. I'm just excited.
Do you guys have a view on the timing?
It appears to me that it's going to be that that week of the 10th that they're talking about. I think that the Biden camp has telegraphed that pretty clearly to the media that this is going to be the rollout day, because every outlet has said that it's going to come that week in pretty much the same terms. You might get to have a lot of fun if it looks like it might happen on the 15th or after the 15th. So that's the same kind of thing I would say. Look, keep an eye on that and be nimble between that after whatever the dates are, August 8th and after August 15th, because I see that that's at I think 70-13 right now or something. I see that getting maybe 70-30, maybe 60-40 if he doesn't have an announcement.
I heard from someone who is sort of shotgunning Pod Save America in one hand and just funneling beers of NBC in the other, who's really in tune with this shit. And she told me that they wanted to make it coincide with the 19th Amendment when women got the right to vote or something like that. And that would be later in August. I don't know. I'll be honest, I haven't really been watching this market, but I'm going to move into it now. I'm going to do whatever you tell me to do.
Are you guys saying then buy no on August 2 to 8? Right now it's trading at 26, so you can get no's at 75, I guess, right now.
I mean, that's where I'm at on that. It went crazy this morning with the pump. It got down into the to the 40s somehow, based on people saying that an announcement was coming during that whole VP crazy pump today. So, that could be susceptible to that too. But yeah, I think this week is dead. I think that next week or after the 15th is the way to go.
Well, I'm going to put it in order right now. See, this is what happens when you're good to the boys. The boys are good back to you. Well, fellas, this has been a longer episode than usual of Star Spangled Gamblers. I hope that there's useful information in it that you one day look back and smile as you think about when we told you how to bet the VP race and that one time I wore a stupid bandana. You want to say goodbye? I'm Keen Dog. This is it. I'm done.
iSavage, thanks again for having me. This was fun, as always. Stay nimble.
Stay nimble. Stay woke. PJ, are you just going to leer at the camera?
Yeah.
You have to say goodbye to people listening on podcasts right now.
Bye.
All right, you guys are awesome. We'll see you next time.
All right, man. All right, guys.
Bye.